Hey everybody! So today what we're going to do is we are going to investigate with viscosity, Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluids. So let's review. Viscosity is the property of a liquid that describes how fast or how slow it flows. So remember that we talked about syrup being having really high viscosity because when those molecules, those large molecules, go across each other, they have a lot of friction going on, they get intertwined with one another, and they flow very slowly. And water flows very easily, so it has low viscosity. Then we have Newtonian fluids. Newtonian fluids have constant viscosity no matter what temperature or what force is applied. Then we have non-Newtonian fluids, and they do not have a constant viscosity, and they do change with temperature or applied force. So today we're going to play around with that. All right, so for this experiment, you are going to need a shallow pan, a mixing bowl, cornstarch, and water. So we're going to start off and we're going to add our cornstarch, and you're going to need quite a bit of cornstarch here. I just bought my cornstarch. I open this up, and I'm going to add quite a bit of this cornstarch. Now this is kind of messy, so I would make sure that you do this in the kitchen or maybe even in the garage. Me, I'm just in my office. All right, so before we get started with this, I want to play around with this cornstarch, and I'm noticing, do you hear it? It's squeaking in my fingers. So it's got a strange feel to it. So it feels different than like flour or powdered sugar. It just has a kind of different feel to it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding my water, and I know that the water is low viscosity, but I'm going to, and it's flowing easily, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start mixing this with my hands. Oh, this feels weird. Okay, I need to mix a little bit more in there. And I need to go ahead and mix this up. I hope this doesn't stick to my rings. And I want this to be about the consistency of honey. Right now it's pretty thick, so I need to add more water. Oh, that's really strange. Okay. Oh, got some in there. Okay. Now, the thing about this is if you accidentally add too much water, you can always add a little more cornstarch as long as you don't put all of your cornstarch in there. Don't put all of your cornstarch in one basket. Ha ha ha. Okay, I'll stop with the bad jokes. All right, so I'm going to keep mixing this around, and this is still pretty darn thick. Although I haven't been able to mix this water in very well. I'm mixing this with my hands, and I'm making quite the mess. Although it is actually kind of fun. So right now this is starting to get kind of crumbly, but I need to mix the water in a little bit better because I need this consistency to be a little, oh wait a minute, there we go. It's starting to loosen up a little bit more. I think I'm going to need just a little bit, touch more water to get this just right. So let's add just a little bit more water. Try to mix it around again. See if I can get it more of the consistency of honey. All right. This really feels strange. Okay. So I'm just about there. All right. So you can see here it's starting to get a little gooey, and it's flowing off my hands, and I think I might just need a touch more water. I hope I'm not making this too loose, but I want to make sure that we can show. Now, right now I know that water is a Newtonian fluid because the viscosity of the water doesn't change with temperature. The viscosity stays constant. So right now, man, Man, this is strange. This is nothing like, it feels nothing like slime. Just a tiny bit more water and do a little more mixing, and then I think I'm ready to go. So I notice when I'm pulling at this, and this is about the consistency of honey, when I'm pulling at this, it's freely flowing from my hands. However, when I pick it up, I'm also noticing that I can form it into a ball. So that's really quite strange. So it's acting like a liquid when I'm letting it flow from my fingers, but it's also acting like a solid when I can squeeze it in my hands. So I can squeeze it in my hands and form the solid, but then when I let it go, it becomes a liquid again. So we have a changed viscosity. I think I need just a tiny bit more water. There we go. Let's see here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it into this pan, and I'm going to perform the smack test. So you should be looking at your paper, your lab paper. All right, I think I'm ready to pour this in. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this in. I hope I have this mixed well enough. Let me see. Oh, I think it's all right. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a shot. So let's pour this in to the pan here and perform the smack test. And if I've done this right, okay, so if this is truly a liquid, think about if this was a pan of water. What would happen if I smacked that? Well, the water is going to come back up in my face. So if I smack this and it's a liquid, it'll smack back up in my face. Ready? It doesn't. Notice that? Look what's happening. It's flowing freely from my fingers after I smack it, but when I hit it, my hand just sinks down in. So what would happen if I grabbed some of this and I go ahead and I form it into a ball? Let's go ahead and form it into a ball. I can form it into a ball as if it were a thing of slime, but then it goes back into the liquid. So I've done the smack test as I'm making a mess all over my floor, and I notice some different properties that prove that it's a non-Newtonian fluid. So I'm going to pour this back into the pan, and as I'm doing that, look what I can do. I can actually, I hope you're able to see this, I'm able to break off pieces of this as it's flowing back into the pan. And see, I'm able to break off pieces as if this were a solid. All right, but it flowed back into the pan as if it were a liquid. Okay, all right. So this is a non-Newtonian fluid. Now look at that. Watch. That's really cool. All right, now that I've made a mess, although all in the name of science. All right, so as you are making this, if you decide to make this, I want you to be answering the lab questions. And so when we did the smack test, I want you to note what happened with the mixture, what happened when I was smacking it. Is the mixture a solid, a liquid, or a gas, and why? Why is this mixture considered a non-Newtonian fluid? And was your hypothesis right or not? So those are the questions that I want you to be answering, and those are all under the observation. I also have the list of things that you need in order to recreate this at home. And what I did with the cornstarch is I put about 3/4 of the canister of cornstarch in, and then I just kept adding water until I got to the right consistency. Now, one thing that you do have to remember, you can't leave this in the bowl sitting out overnight. You'll ruin the bowl because it becomes the consistency of concrete. So you're going to need to clean out the bowl when you're done with the experiment. And this is one of my good mixing bowls too, so I'm going to have to clean this out. All right, so play around with Newtonian and non-Newtonian fluids, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have fun, stay curious, and always keep learning. See you tomorrow, if I can get myself unstuck from this.